Hi everyone! Today I'm going to talk about my experiences posting a webcomic for the past year. Now, this is something I wanted to talk about a lot earlier, probably closer to the actual anniversary of my comic, but because of some surgeries I had over the summer, I had to delay this. But now that I'm all good, I can finally talk about it. First of all, the comic that I've been posting weekly is called Sugar and Swords. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's about the daily life of an NPC in a world full of adventures and heroes. You can read it over on Webtoon Canvas. I'll put a link down below. But it's just a fun little slice of life with like 4 to 6 panel jokes, commenting or just talking about like background characters and NPCs and what they have to deal with in video games. So with that little introduction, let's get started. So one of the main points that probably a lot of comic artists have heard of is basically having a buffer. It's pretty obvious, but honestly I think it's really important to have. Like, one of the biggest things that allowed me to post weekly, starting out, is just having a large buffer. Like, when I started Sugar and Swords about a year ago, I had 10 episodes already planned out before even releasing it, because at the time I was still figuring out how long each episode took, and I needed that extra time to really understand what I can make in a week, because that was my time limit. Time limit that I put on myself. Honestly, because I just post on Webtoon Canvas, I can post it whenever I want, but because I really wanted this comic to grow, I really wanted to post weekly. So for each episode, I only allowed myself a week to make. Nowadays, I work with just a 1 episode buffer because that's honestly all I need, because I've made over 70 episodes as of making this video, so I have a pretty good idea on how long it'll take me to draw each episode. If you plan on starting your own comic, and you're still figuring out like the style or like the characters, then give yourself plenty of time before actually releasing it. Like, I'm also starting a new comic, and I'm trying to make a really big buffer for that one as well, because that style is a lot more detailed than my Sugar and Swords style. Another little thing that I learned while making comics is that your first 20 episodes will take a lot longer to make than your like 50th or 60th. I know it's pretty obvious when you think about it, but when you first start like developing your characters and like the world itself and like the storyline, it just takes a lot more time than compared to like having like everything already established and you're just drawing everything out. By the time I reached over 50 episodes, I had a good handle on the art style, expressions, and feel of the comic. The next thing I learned that I'm sure a lot of comic creators need to cross paths with is to take shortcuts. Releasing episodes weekly meant I needed to focus more on meeting my deadlines more than creating a perfect drawing. I often look back and copy panels and faces from older episodes to make my newer episodes quicker, as well as to maintain consistency between all the episodes. I only mean this in terms of comic making to make the deadlines. If I were to, say, work on an illustration or steady art, then I wouldn't copy my old work and I would take time to make what I want. I know deep down we want to create the best comics out there that are detailed and beautiful and amazing, but when we have time constraints, our workflow needs to reflect that. Because of this, I also use 3D models for backgrounds, and I have a sheet of different faces of my main character. So basically, when I have to have a new scene, I can basically go through, either pull up the 3D model and just copy the perspective, or I can just go through the older episodes and then just copy and paste the background from there. I also like to do that with my characters. Let's say I'm just having a talking scene, so I can just like copy and paste old panels of my main character talking and then just put them in this new one. It also helps to simplify whenever you can. Some panels may not need to have a background since the focus will be on the character itself, so I may even just put a simple flat color or even just a gradient. When I started out over a year ago, I thought I'm gonna draw out everything I can. I'm gonna make dynamic poses and angles and make it look very cool. But by the time I made episode 10, I realized that I need to keep things simple in order to like meet the deadlines and be able to finish this comic actually. Especially since the tone of this comic is very lighthearted and comical, so it was okay for me to simplify. Another thing that I feel is very important is to organize everything. Over the past year, I've now had so many episodes, and being able to like sift through every single episode and every single Photoshop file could take a lot of time if I didn't organize it at the beginning. Basically, my file structure is I have a folder for all my Sugar and Swords content, and in that folder, I have each episode contained in one folder. That episode has the original Photoshop file, the PNGs, maybe any other 3D model assets that I would need, and all of the formatting I need for converting it to webtoons. This also makes it so much easier to reference older episodes because I have everything organized, and if I want to look at something that was in episode 5, I can just open up the folder, go to episode 5, and it's really easy to find. So again, if you are making something new, like a comic or a giant project, organization is everything. Don't wait till the end, or don't wait till you're halfway through. Start it at the beginning. Have a plan before you just jump right into it. And speaking of organizing, I think it's also important to plan out the storyline or the episodes itself. I know a lot of people like to make the plot of the story as they go, but for me, I found it easier to plan out every episode. Now, since Sugar and Swords is short and episodic, planning ahead is very easy for me. But there was a set of episodes that I called the Dragon Quest arc, which all related to each other. I gave myself 1 week to finish each episode, so writing out everything that happened before I started actually drawing it allowed me to get the thumbnailing and sketching done on the first day without having to deal with what each character would say or what would happen in each episode. So basically, for this comic, I just have a Google Docs that has all the episodes or possible episodes that I want to make listed out. That way, I never have a week where I don't know what I'm going to draw. I can just reference the sheet and pick an episode that looks interesting and just start drawing it. Honestly, if you have an idea or a comic that you want to tell, then I would recommend just to do it, or at least start working on it. For the past year, I've been making it. I've made this comic part of my routine. Pretty much every weekday when I start to work, I just plan out an hour to work on this comic, and I've been doing that for so long that it's just part of my routine. And it's not hard for me to get comic work done because I've made it part of my daily life. I know we may have ideas that are so large in our head and we just can't really figure out how to get this done, but honestly, you just need to do it one part at a time, just like one little section at a time. Because I didn't think I would end up making this comic for over a year. I thought I would make 40 episodes and then call it done and just start on my next comic. But because it grew and people liked it, I decided to keep it going, and I'm still keeping it going. So I guess another experience that I've learned is that if you have like a giant project that you just want to do, just work on it little by little. Like for me, like I said, I've just been working on it pretty much an hour a day. And I've been doing that for the past year, so as you can see, it compiled into a lot of drawings and a lot of stories, which I'm pretty happy about. So yeah, that was just a few experiences and things I've learned throughout this past year of comic making. I feel like there's a lot more stuff I could talk about, but these were just the few things that came to my head just while writing out this video. If you're curious, like I said, this comic is called Sugar and Swords. I hope you check it out. I'll put a link down below. And I plan on using all the experiences and things that I've learned from this comic and put it into my next comic, which is going to be called Crystallized. Now, this comic is my big comic idea that I've been planning out for the past year or two, actually maybe 3. Anyway, I'm basically taking everything I've learned from this comic and putting it into the next, while still updating Sugar and Swords when I can. If you want more info on specific ways to work faster, then I made a Skillshare class on some of my favorite quick tips for webcomic making that were not discussed in this video. Surprise, I'm the sponsor of this video. It's not sponsored by Skillshare, I just made a class on that site, and if you're curious, go ahead and check it out. I think that was everything I wanted to say, so I hope you guys enjoyed listening to this video. Again, the comic's in the description. I've talked about this whole video, so you know where to find it. And I hope you guys have a great day. Bye!